Jen, it's Fantasy Festivus and time to air your fantasy grievances. Who let you down this week?
Well, I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago. I talked about running backs and how they made me angry.
Every week, Jen. Every week.
Well, no, but my actual Fantasy Festivus was about running backs and how it was disgusting, and I was annoyed by it. This week, I'm going back to the positional well here, and I'm going quarterback. So let's discuss for a second the quarterbacks this week 7. Okay, so you got Joe Burrow number 1, fine, but then we're looking at Daniel Jones, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and Davis Mills, all within the top 10 of quarterbacks. Like, what are we doing? It's super gross. Guys that, normally are up there, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, all on the bottom, basically QB2s. Super frustrating in the fantasy realm, so I'm annoyed by that.
I'm with you, Jen. Like, really, it's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Everyone else is a crapshoot every week. It's quarterback, gross. I'm with you completely, although good for streaming. So let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Most Accurate Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Niles. With me is my excellent co-host, Jen Eakins. And sitting in for Chris Allen this week is 4for4's own Nic Bodiford. You can find Nick on Twitter at Nic Bodiford NFL and find his weekly defensive streaming article at 4for4.com. You can also find his work at the33rdteam.com and various other outlets. Nick, I was trying to find the right thing to say, but you're everywhere, man. How's it going, buddy?
It's good. It's very busy. I'm also working with Pro Football Focus, and then I've got my own little site that I co-run called Nerdball Fantasy Football.
Everywhere, man.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
No, thanks for joining us. Super psyched to have you on. Jen, how are you this fine evening?
I'm well. I'm well. I had a really good week. It's funny. Everyone, every week it's like there's complaints here and there about teams, but I mean, I had a really good fantasy week, so I have no complaints. Maybe other people's misfortune was my fortune, but yeah, I'm good. I know you're a little under the weather, Brandon, but
I am sick. It's not COVID, but I'm definitely sick. It's possible a wardrobe change may occur during the episode. A hoodie may not have been the best decision at the moment. It's possible I go into a coughing fit, but we're gonna do this thing here. We're gonna do it well. This will be a fun experience. As a reminder to the listeners, this is our weekly streaming episode. We'll emphasize hot pickups for the primary streaming positions. That's quarterback, tight end, kicker, and team defense. Let's check out how we did last week. Chris's sleeper streamer of the week, Marcus Mariota, kind of let us down a little bit. 19th, he was the QB 19, but number 2 streaming option was Jimmy Garoppolo, who was 9th. Jimmy Garoppolo 9th. We'll get to Jimmy Garoppolo later, probably talking about him and the addition of Christian McCaffrey, what we think of that. But we'll see. He's not really streaming lately because his rostership is up too high right now. So Matt Ryan was 20th. Bailey Zappi was 26th, although Bailey Zappi only played half the game. So I'm going to call that incomplete. Tight ends, Jen. Evan Ingram, tight end 9. Greg Dulcich, tight end 12. Juwan Johnson, your bonus, tight end 2 on the week, Jen.
Yeah, all my tight ends were starters last week. Not bad.
Daniel Bellinger got hurt, so that's kind of an incomplete as well. But you basically just crushed tight end last week, Jen.
I kind of did.
Kickers, Bertolet, kicker 22. Jason Sanders and Rodrigo Blankenship tied for kicker 8. So pretty good there as well. Got to enjoy that. Love seeing Miami back in the win column. That's always fun to see. And defense, I did pretty good. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. Jets tied for 12th. Giants tied for 14th, just outside defense one area, and the Chicago Bears tied for 7th. This week's buys, the Chiefs and the Chargers. Big offensive threats there. So I'm guessing a lot of people are going to be looking for streaming options. Let's start at quarterback. I'm going to fill in for Chris this week, although I must be honest, I kind of cheated and just read Chris's quarterback streamer article, which everyone should check out at 4for4.com. It comes out every week. So I have our top quarterback streamer of the week. That's our sleeper streamer of the week. Again, I'm doing the quarterbacks this week. Streamer number 1, Daniel Jones, 41% rostered, which is just on the hair. So we're cheating a little bit on rostership. But Daniel Jones, he is quietly the QB9. He's the QB9 right now after the game on Sunday. I mean, it's a little bit inflated because he just blew up on Sunday. He had 107 yards and a touchdown on the ground, which is incredible. He's averaging 49 rushing yards a game. He only has one game under 21 rushing yards. He's only thrown 2 picks, has yet to fumble. These are the good things about Daniel Jones. And then this is straight up from Chris, so I'm just regurgitating right now. Jones is second in play action rate with the 6th most designed rushing attempts amongst all quarterbacks, which is good. And their 48.7% third down conversion rate over the last 3 weeks ranks 4th in the league. And then most importantly, Chris says they face the Seahawks, who are allowing 18.9 adjusted fantasy points allowed per game to the quarterback position and ranked 26th. Nick, I want to start with you. Are we believing in Danny Dimes? How are we feeling about Danny Dimes and the Giants?
Well, I believe in Brian Daboll, and he's kind of working the controls through Daniel Jones. I think, I'm not sure if you listed it in there, but his scramble rate is awfully high too. So even when he's not getting the designed runs, he's also just taking off, and he kind of looks like Bambi when he's out there. But he's getting it done. And the gulf between the elites and the mediocre is pretty big. So if you can get someone who's kind of manufacturing the points, I'd roll with it.
I love it. Let's keep dialing up these Giants. I have fun with that. Listeners, don't forget Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform with excellent custom settings for fantasy commissioners. I'm talking Dynasty, Redraft, IDP, you name it. Easily accessible, wildly mobile friendly. So go download the app and join or start a league today. I got a couple more quarterbacks. This one's straight up from Chris because as a Dolphins fan, I just can't say nice things about Ryan Tannehill. It just doesn't work. So, but Ryan Tannehill versus Houston at the Texans right now, 18% rostership right now. The Texans are 9th in AFPA to quarterbacks, but Derek Carr just went for an efficient 241 and a touchdown on 77.8% completion against them. Part of it, I think, is that Tannehill scores fantasy points on play action, right? And Jen, I wanted to get your take real quick on Derrick Henry and his emergence and see what you think about him and the Tennessee offense before I continue this point.
I think he's really the only person that you can have in the Tennessee offense. I mean, let's be real. I think that we know they've always been run heavy. They're going to continue to be run heavy. I had Robert Woods was one of my drops today in the dead weight report. So even though he is technically the wide receiver 1 there, it doesn't matter. Like, I think it's all Derrick Henry. So I'm excited by it because I know, like, this summer in best ball, everyone was avoiding him because he's a no in any kind of PPR, and he's still crushing it. And we knew he would. I mean, he's the king, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm not interested in Tannehill at all. I get it if you're desperate, but I feel like this week, I don't know. There's only 2 teams on a bye, and I feel like there have to be better options than Tannehill. I understand with our parameters for streaming, it has to be 40%, under roster. So I get why he's in the mix. But personally, if it were me, I would hope that I could find someone better.
And Chris's point, I agree with you, Jen. Chris's point, aside from this being the best picture possible of any player, the Ryan Tannehill Sal right. has replaced here. But Chris's point is that while Tannehill struggled in a win last week, he has that efficiency upside if the ground game can get going. Tannehill scores fantasy points on the play action. He does it by throwing deep, and Chris thinks he can do that against the Texans defense that just got crushed on the ground, and so he's thinking they'll be able to set up Derrick Henry on the ground and set up the play action, and then Tannehill will be able to do that. I will say Tannehill, he's nursing an ankle, so keep an eye on that.
Right, yeah.
If he misses that game, I might be kind of interested in a little Malik Willis,
Yeah, I think we're all interested in just like enough with Tannehill. Let's move on, see what we have.
Yeah, I'm not excited about the idea of Malik Willis coming in and throwing for 300 yards, but I am excited about maybe those year 1 Jalen Hurts numbers we might see from Malik Willis against the Texans if he ends up starting. So hopefully that happens. That's kind of what I'm hoping. Final quarterback streaming option, PJ Walker at the Falcons. Chris also liked the Saints quarterback again, and I wasn't going to go into that. I like PJ Walker just a hair better. Atlanta's 27th in adjusted fantasy points allowed to the opposing quarterbacks. And Joe Burrow just threw for 344 passing yards at halftime on Sunday against them. Walker had a quiet but efficient game last week, 177, a pair of touchdowns against the Bucs, completed 72.7% of his passes. Not really a threat to run with the ball, but the coaching staff said it's hard to go away from him after such a big win against the Bucs, and the division title's not out of reach for Carolina right now. I think if Tampa loses and Carolina beats Atlanta, they'll have the lead. So I don't love PJ Walker. Go get Daniel Jones, but if you're desperate, you could do worse than a little PJ Walker. He also might keep that job for a little while, and it's kind of fun to see that happen. So Nick, what do you think of this Carolina offense without Christian McCaffrey coming in and just blowing the snot out of the Bucs?
Well, okay, so that was a surprise. I did consider PJ Walker as a quarterback start this week. I got scared off of it, but Atlanta, they're down all three starting cornerbacks, or likely to be this week. So it's a path to success there. But I was shocked. Steve Wilkes, I think he's a smart guy. I don't like his brand of football, but it worked.
It did. Deontay Foreman, Chuba Hubbard, the answer was both. Who knew? Who knew the answer was both last week? It was a lot of fun to go into there. Enjoyed that game as a part-time Carolina Panthers fan. But let's move on for the quarterbacks. Jen, let's get into your tight end streamers for this week.
All right, let's. This week is kind of I'm not as excited as I was last week, but there are options for people out there that need them, and let's be real, we all need them, because unless you have Kelsey, who's off, and I would even say Andrews, but he put up less than 1 point last week and he didn't practice today.
Festivus.
Yeah, you know what? I was gonna do him, Brandon, but I already did him like week 2 or 3. True. Remember? So I actually, yes, but he almost got me cut in a guillotine league. Thankfully I did survive with the help of Mr. Austin Eckler, but that's for another day. All right, so tight end. First guy is Cade Otton. Listen, Cameron Brate, I believe should still be out. I don't know. He's got a neck issue. If he's back, then they'll probably split time. But he's had 12 targets, right, in the 2 games that Cameron Brate has been out. Last week he was third behind Evans and Godwin in targets in that offense. And listen, the Ravens, they play the Ravens, and they're 27th in tight end adjusted fantasy points allowed. They're allowing 12.7 half PPR points a game to the tight end. So he's only 14% rostered on Yahoo. So Cade Otton is, a good bet. Hopefully the Bucs bounce back this week and actually have some offense. So
he's been fun. Like he was supposed to just be a blocker coming out of college, but he's been fun. And it's been kind of fun to see, these rookie tight ends actually have success in their first year, because we're not used to that. So that's kind of fun. Second guy is another rookie that is finding success. Actually, all 3 of them are rookies, I just noticed. But all right, anyway, second guy is Greg Dulcich. They're playing in London this weekend against the Jags. He is 13% rostered right now. I mean, he's the only spark, right, in the Broncos' sputtering offense. He's tight end 8 since he's come back off IR in half PPR points a game. It's not a fantastic matchup. The Jags are actually kind of tough first tight end, but times are tough. He's there, and he's having a decent comeback. So I think that Greg Dulcich there is my second option. London is kind of a wild card, right, for everybody, but sometimes people play better there. So maybe the Broncos will actually show up. Who knows? Third guy on the list is Juwan Johnson for the Saints. Now, Adam Troutman, I don't know if he's going to be out or not. That's still TBD. But if he is, then he's a full go. If not, then you may want to go with another option. But listen, last week he had 5 receptions for 32 yards and 2 touchdowns with Troutman out. The Raiders are 28th in tight end adjusted fantasy points allowed. So it's a great matchup for him. He's only 3% rostered, so he's there if you need him. I do have a 4th bonus that. Ooh, I like bonuses.
Well, the reason he's a bonus is because he's technically over the rostership. He's 42% rostered, so he doesn't technically count as a streamer. But I'm throwing him out there anyway because 42% is not a lot. So he's there for some of you guys in your leagues. Irv Smith Jr. playing Arizona, ridiculously soft against tight ends all year. So Irv Smith coming off a bye, nice and rested. And so he's kind of my bonus. He doesn't qualify, but I'm throwing him out there for those of you because he's probably on a lot of leagues or on a lot of waiver wires.
I'm shocked that he's available in that many leagues. Irv Smith, he's had a role in that offense.
No, yeah, and I think possibly people dropped him because of the bye. Last week. I don't know exactly what his rostership has been, but I haven't seen him when I've been doing this every week. So I'm sure he was probably way over the limit at one point, and then people probably dropped him for the bye. But yeah, he's got a fantastic matchup. So he's my bonus, but he's really my number one if you're out there looking for a streamer.
Sure. Daniel Duong asks if Justin Fields is too scary to stream against Dallas in case they can't get Danny Dimes. Sal is crushing the answers. Our producer Sal is crushing answers in the chat right now. I'll just say that if you can't get Danny Dimes, I don't have a problem with Justin Fields. The last few weeks, they've got him out of the pocket, which has been an effective thing to do. And he's, of course, running, which is always good for fantasy numbers. And then I play IDP a lot, Stephen Smith. So I'm definitely grabbing Deion Jones, especially with the injuries in Cleveland right now. I think Deion Jones is going to be a solid addition for you. I'd probably drop Pacheco. I know Pacheco's exciting and he's great, but in redraft leagues right now, I think that's going to continue to be a mess until Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon are hurt. And even if they're not hurt, or even if they do get hurt, Pacheco probably good. I love him. I'm excited. The Chiefs they throw. That's what they do. So I'm not super excited about anyone in that Chiefs running game when Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't just running in touchdowns. Nick, do you want to argue with me?
I mean, I like stashing Pacheco, but it's nothing more than that. I mean, if the C's part, then yeah, he has access to a massive workload. But the C's do have to part. It's if you don't have a great record, then you probably can't hold him.
Yeah, I've got him in several dynasty leagues. I'm keeping him there. Hard to pry him away from me there, but yeah, it's just redraft is tough. How about you, Jen? Are you I was trying to think of something glitchy, but I'm too sick apparently. But are you kicking it out there for Pacheco?
I do have, I grabbed him this week, early Sunday morning in a couple leagues. I unfortunately played him over Foreman in 2 leagues, which was a mistake. But I did it. I do want to add to the Deion Jones thing. I do not play IDP, but I do edit Mike Wollert's article every week. And I edited it this morning and he was the poster guy on there because I had to go find a picture of him. So to answer your question, Mike Wollert likes Deion Jones this week because he was the header picture for that article of pickups.
Yeah, and Steven, if you don't follow Mike Woller is literally my favorite IDP guy. He's our IDP ranker at the site, at Mike_Woller on Twitter. He's also really nice, and if you DM him with questions, he will probably respond because he loves talking IDP. So, Jen, let's talk kickers, all right? Is it a good or a bad week to stream kickers?
It's a great week to stream kickers because a lot of people, basically we had 4 really good kickers on a bye last week, and a lot of people dropped them. So there are good kickers available on the waiver wire pretty widely. And so it's a great week to stream kickers.
Awesome.
And I will start with my number one is Jake Elliott. He is only 8% rostered, which is ridiculous, but the Eagles were on a bye, so people probably dropped him. Jake Elliott versus Pittsburgh at home. He's well rested. The Eagles are 7-point favorites at home, and they have the 3rd highest implied team total of the week. It's 27 points. So smash Elliott if you can grab him. He's available in 92% of Yahoo leagues right now. He will not be after this week. So
I'm noticing a weekly theme here with Jake Elliott, Jen.
What do you mean?
I can't believe he's still on this
list.
Well,
he wasn't.
The rostership is still low.
Right. He was right. The first couple weeks I kept saying and then finally he got there.
The bye week, right?
Right. Now bye week he's back. Yep. Second guy is you and I's favorite or up there, Jason Sanders, our Dolphins. He's on the road, which I don't usually love kickers, but it's a great matchup. He's playing in Detroit. He's only 14% rostered. Miami has the 2nd highest implied team total of the week at 27.50. And they are 3-point road favorites. So I feel like, he actually had a good week last week. Let's keep it rolling with Sanders. I think that that game, Detroit, they give up a lot of points. So I think Sanders is a good option there. Third guy I have is also a guy coming off a bye, Greg Joseph. They're playing Arizona at home. He is 18% rostered, and they are just 2.5-point favorites, but a 26.25 implied team total. So there should be ample opportunity for Joseph to add to your roster there. And then I added a 4th this week, not necessarily a bonus, but I just threw him in there. And that's Jason Myers. It's coming into the season. Denny Carter and I did an entire show about kickers to target. And literally we spent 10 minutes talking about how do not target Jason Myers because Seattle was going to be horrible. He's kicker 3 on the season. Like no one saw that coming. Well, no one saw any of Seattle coming, but kicker wise, they're playing the Giants. He is actually 33% rostered. So he's close to the limit. But they're at home against the Giants. They're 3-point favorites, 24 implied team total. So he's a good option there as well. So there's 4 pretty decent options, and there's actually more. I had to limit myself. I could talk about kicker for a while, but there's 4 good ones.
I would listen to a weekly kicker podcast with you and Denny Carter. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So, Nick, that Miami Dolphins offense, right? I like Jason Sanders as well. I agree with Jen. I'm just curious. We watched a tale of 2 halves, Miami against Pittsburgh. We've watched some really bad Dolphins offense this year without Tua, some really good offense with Tua. Tua's back. Up and down game against Pittsburgh. What do you think of this Dolphins offense moving forward? Assuming Tua stays behind center.
I'm really excited about him this week, and I actually am going to include both Jared Goff and Tua Tagovailoa in my quarterback starts and sits article coming out tomorrow. The game's totaled, I think it's 51.5 points. It's the highest total on the slate. They're both top 12 in a handful of leading efficiency metrics. So at least for this week, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I like Mike McDaniel.
Me too. He's so much fun. He feels like the coach I would be if I had any ability, talent, or motivational skills. Yeah. He's got that wonk mentality. Like nothing does better. I don't get rabble roused very well, but you come up with a PowerPoint that puts me to sleep, I'm gonna walk out and be like, hire that guy. That's just who I am. Let's go to your defensive streamers. Save me, Nick. I've been up and down all year as I do the defensive streamers each week. You do a much better job with your article weekly, so listeners should check out Nick's article at 4for4.com every week for the streaming options at defense. Who'd you come up with this week and bring to us, Nick?
So appreciate the kind words. The theme here is sort of targeting the quarterback. First team is the Jacksonville Jaguars, 27% Yahoo rostership. They're squaring up against the Denver Broncos, and we don't yet know who's going to be under center for the Broncos. It's either going to be a badly injured Russell Wilson, who's got a strained hamstring and a strained latissimus dorsi. I think it's on his throwing side, but it's kind of a disaster. And then Brett Ripien, he's awfully bad. But what I like about Jacksonville, so this week they showed up number 5 on 4for4's hot spot tool. The Denver Broncos are allowing 10.1 fantasy points per game to opposing defense special teams units. Jacksonville, their quarterback pressure rate is 20.2. It's kind of middle of the pack, but Josh Allen has been having a very good year. He's top 7 in total quarterback pressures. And I think that Doug Peterson, he's a smart coach, and I think that he's going to be sending Josh Allen right down the lane where Garrett Bowles used to be. Denver lost their left tackle I think it was after the week 5 Indianapolis game.
Yeah.
I think Allen should be able to take advantage of that. And I've been very impressed with Jacksonville from a turnover perspective. They are top 5 in interceptions per drive with 0.12 and they're number 8 with 0.15 total turnovers per drive. So I think that this is a matchup that they can take advantage of. Wilson's efficiency metrics are so bad. 2.5%.
It's so bad.
It's hugely disappointing because I'm a massive Russell Wilson fan.
Me too.
But so I generally try to avoid chasing low team real life points scored, because what we want are sacks and interceptions. But it's worth noting that Denver is bottom of the league in points per game at 15.2 and touchdowns per game with 1.2. So I think regardless of whether it's Wilson or Brett Ripien under center, we can be excited about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Second team on the list here, Indianapolis Colts versus Washington Commanders. The Indianapolis Colts have a 35% Yahoo roster rate. Colts front 7 is injured, but Chris Ballard is good at accumulating talented players, or at least league starters, and that's what he's done with the front 7. So they've got 17 sacks on the year. That's 10th best in the NFL, and they might be getting back Shaquille Leonard, 3-time, how do I say this, 5th-year pro, 3-time All-Pro, Shaq Leonard. He's coming off a concussion, broken nose, and then back surgery. But if he's there,
not to cut you off, are they getting Quiddy payback too?
I don't know his status.
Okay,
that would be big. But did he go down last week?
A couple weeks ago, and then he missed last week. So just curious.
Yeah, he would be a big boost to the pass rush. But regardless, the Washington Commanders offensive line have lost 3 of their week 1 starters. They're allowing a quarterback pressure rate of 23.4%, at 7th worst in the NFL. They're going to have Taylor Heineke under center. Heineke is a little bit mobile, but we can look at what he did last year. So among quarterbacks with 400 dropbacks in 2021, he was bottom 12 in touchdown rate, 4.1%, interception rate, 3.0%, and sack rate, 6.7%. And when I say bottom 12 in interception rate, I mean worst, or one of the 12 worst. So I like that matchup overall. I think that Heineke, he could make things interesting, but he could also make things interesting just by throwing pick sixes. So I'm going to skip the final, or the third defense I have on the list, because I think maybe the most fun one on here is the Carolina Panthers. They are rostered in only 3% of Yahoo leagues. They're part of my deep streaming picks section. They're playing the Atlanta Falcons. Carolina's defense is kind of the fantasy build of stars and scrubs. Their secondary has been very badly injured pretty much all year. Dante Jackson, ankle twice, 2 ankle injuries, a hamstring strain. CJ Henderson has been in the concussion protocol, working through a knee injury as well. JC Horn has a ribs injury and a calf injury, or these are all things that they have been working through in the past, or currently dealing with now. But the important thing here is that all 3 of them, for the first time in a long time, logged full participant statuses last Friday. Now, I don't think Horn actually ended up playing in that one, where he was limited. But this week could be the first time that the Panthers actually have their trio of secondary starters. So we might learn more about this team with those guys out there. Brian Burns, we know that he's an absolute animal. He's top 10 quarterback pressure rate with 15 total. He's number 13 in the NFL in sacks with 5.0. Marcus Mariota, this is not a high volume passing game, but when he is being called upon to, play quarterback and not run, he's taking sacks at a rate of 9.2%. That's second worst among 35 NFL quarterbacks with at least 100 dropbacks, and his 2.7 interception rate is bottom 10. Last week, they only threw the ball 10 times, and I think that Carolina can just kind of get the job done, even if Arthur Smith continues to be a run-heavy offense.
Interesting, very interesting. I like the theme here. You talked about pass rushing and getting to the quarterback with each of these teams. I like that. I tend to do the same thing. I try to chase sacks a little bit. Trayvon Walker back in the sack column after a few week absence last week too, which is fun for that Jaguars defense. Jen, I wanted to ask you, obviously we're all targeting the Jaguars defense against Denver, just as Nick recommended. How much has alcohol consumption increased in the city of Denver, where you live, over the past month and a half? Is it hard
ugly,
to find
Brandon.
it? Yeah.
It's ugly. Yeah. I mean, I can't even, like, sports radio around here, local, like it's really bad. It's just,
it's so
it's just
that contract.
well,
I look at that contract, I just go, oh,
it's a lot of
Denver.
money. I mean, $250 million. Like,
yeah,
it's a lot of money.
It's like 4 years before they can reasonably get out of it.
And the thing is, it's like, this is what's been happening for years. Like, yep. I mean, since, like, in between, Elway and Manning, and then after Manning, it's just like this carousel of just horrible decisions. Brock Osweiler paying him, like, it's just, and then they bring in these coach after coach that isn't panning out either. It's just been a really, for a city and a team that had this long legacy of winning for so long, it's been so ugly in recent years. And it's tough. I mean, I'm fortunate in that I live here, but I root for another team. And so that that helps my sanity.
A little less depression.
That I wasn't born and raised here, but I have lived here for 20 years, and it's tough. I mean, local, people that it's very, very difficult to kind of know the hole that they're in right now, and that it's just not something that's going to be fixed anytime soon. I mean, they're in a bad way. I mean, both coach, quarterback, all of it. And the thing that's frustrating is there's a lot of talent on the team. It's just not. Yeah. Oh, look at Chris. Chris is in the chat.
Yeah, Chris says he prefers Nick over the other guy we usually have on the show. I will say they're both absolutely wonderful, and I appreciate both of their time every time they join us.
Before we go, guys, I just happen to notice there are a couple defensive questions in the chat. If Nick, if you want to answer them real quick, I know I saw them real quick. Someone wants to know Colts over Jets.
Yeah, Colts. Yeah, that's a good one. But yes, Colts over Jets for me.
And then
really? I would really the Jets against the Patriots? Like, would you'd stick with the Colts?
It depends on which version of Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones we get.
Yeah.
And I'm a sucker for Tyquan Thornton and what he brings to the offense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fun. I like that a lot.
There was one more at the top real quick. It was just they wanted to know Jags or Indy. So I assume you'd go Jags, right? I mean,
I would. Yeah, they're at the top of the list.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there because it was one of the first questions in the in here right when we started, and I didn't want to ignore that person.
Oh, I'm sorry, George. I did completely overlook that question. Thank you, Jen, for keeping me honest. Also, shout out to Tom Sturdivant for joining us. Agree on dropping the Packers D, and nice to see.
You know
Tom
what? They
join.
served well, Tom, this week because I picked them up last week, and I'm going to be happily dropping them with you. But they were great this week. They actually had 2 pick sixes, but one was called back. They were great this week, at least. I mean, considering.
Jen, I'm going to ask you, I got a Twitter question from @bonafide724. If you have Gerald Everett, are you dropping Kyle Pitts in a 10-team half PPR?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. At this point, I don't know. A 10-team, I just don't know. I don't know. Listen, I'm in the same boat. I actually have him in a 12-team, and I don't. Yeah, I know. It's funny. I was talking to Justin earlier about it because I was anti Kyle Pitts the entire summer. I wrote about him, and then in my home league, he fell, and I bit and I have over 100 best ball leagues, and I have 0 shares, but I took him in my home league because I fell for it. And I'm in trouble because I don't have, and I keep trotting him out every week because you can't drop him and you can't trade him. But in a 10-team league, I don't know. I mean, at this point, sure, get rid of it. I mean, this offense is not showing us that they're going to do anything different. They were down 21 points and did not throw the ball. What is it going to take? Whether there's people there enabling and no one's being like, hey, no one's stepping up and being like, we need to switch this. It's just all of us, little, armchair quarterbacks are sitting home going, what are you people doing? But they're not, so I don't know. I think in a 10-team league, I mean, we're halfway through the season at this point, or the fantasy regular season. I don't think he's all of a sudden going to come out and, light it up. So sure. I mean, go ahead, drop him. I don't know.
Yeah. Nick, any hopes for the Atlanta offense moving forward?
Well, I hadn't even considered that someone in the organization might tell Arthur Smith to cut it out. So that offered a moment of hope for me. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Drake London. I'm a big fan of Kyle Pitts. And I was even a big fan of Arthur Smith. I think what makes Pitts unique in terms of dropping him or trying to trade him is that this onesie position carries some amount of inherent value where you might be able to convince someone to give you something for him instead of cutting him. But if no one bites, maybe a 10-team, you do have to just let him go.
Okay. I agree. I think at this point,
it's not an easy decision because I've wrestled with it every week for the last 5 weeks or whatever. So, and I think this week I haven't picked up another I just keep rolling them out there, but I think this week I'm going to make a claim and actually pick up someone else. I don't think I'm going to drop Pitts. I think I'll keep him and then start someone else for now, but I don't know. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I don't know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
The guy that I measure everybody against is Taysom Hill. Am I willing to get a donut or a 20-point outing? That's how I measure whether or not I want to keep a tight end on my roster.
I like that. I like the Taysom Hill conundrum. I like that. It's Sal, our producer Sal, will enjoy that. Zachary Hughes got a question real quick. 12-man PPR redraft. I'm assuming this is a trade question. Leonard Fournette, Rachaad White, and Debo, or Devontae Adams and James Conner. Obviously, I like both those receivers in that deal. I probably like Devontae better, so that's the side I would like. But what do you think, Nick?
So I was watching the initial eval podcast that 444's Adam Hutchison does, and he brought up the fact that Debo is dealing with a hamstring strain right now. Debo has a history of soft tissue injuries. It could be mild, but in some cases with wide receivers, I believe that injury can last. I've got it up. I always have his injury index pulled up because it's phenomenal.
Yeah, Adam's awesome. The best.
He is the best. So among wide receivers, hamstring strains, man, that's bad. 2.6 games average missed for hamstring strains at that position. So if we get any clarity on that, you might want to pull the trigger. But like, I'm pretty low on James Conner. If we're just talking pure talent, I prefer the Bucks Debo side to the Devontae Adams, James Connors.
Oh, okay. Jen, it sounds like Nick and I differ a little bit, but your thoughts?
It's tough because there's kind of like, landmines in both, really, like you said. I mean, it's, Connor, I mean, he's really hasn't done much as far as showing us that he's going to be healthy anytime soon. And the other side, I mean, Fournette and Rachaad White are kind of the same, not the same boat, but the same person-ish. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I don't know that I would do.
I just like Devontae Adams so much. It makes me feel like
I do too. But I feel like, if you're trading like Fournette and Rachaad White, it's like you're obviously not going to play them both. So it's a one position. That's what I meant by that. My words got all jumbled.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I would make that trade, to be honest. I don't like either side. How about that? Can I
know, right? I like that. I'm good with that. Just throw them both out there. Yeah, let's talk. We got a question from our Discord channel. I want to bring this up. We've got a little bit of time before Nick needs to jet. Nick, just flag me if I'm holding you up a little bit too long. So there's a league dispute. I'm going to summarize this real quick. Basically, there's a team that had a stacked bench and basically held a player hostage against another team on a Monday night who had a player that was questionable, right? So, the team had a questionable player and they were like, hey, I'll trade you his backup, holding him hostage or something like that. So is that fair play, basically? I think it's very fair and very smart and also kind of a crappy thing to do. So it's really up to you how you do it. Like I'm in a league with where waivers happen to where 12 hours, it takes 12 hours for a waiver. And so you can't pick somebody up at the last minute. You just can't. So you have to, if you have a last minute injury and you need to pick someone up, you can't do it. You have to do it Saturday, right? And it's an open waiver. So if somebody goes in and ups the bid on someone you bid on, it resets it the 12 hours, right? So I had somebody, I needed a defensive tackle, and I had a last minute personal reason. The guy was out and I didn't have enough defensive tackles on there, right? And so I needed one. I put him in on Saturday. The person I was up against that week waited until the last minute and then clicked up, bid up $1 on it. And then I took a 0 at defensive tackle. Very fair. Crappy thing to do, but very fair. I can't really do anything. So I think, is it a good thing in a league? Probably not. But is it bad or heinous or wrong or dirty? I don't know. I think I'm okay with it. What do you think, Nick?
I think, you have to let people run their teams how they want to. And if that means that they're going to like burn a friendship for a month, then that's that. I rarely like to intervene in, if I'm managing a league.
I tend to feel the same way. And then let's do this. I got one more kicker question for you, Jen, before we go. Daniel Duong says, do we like Jake Elliott more than Brett Maher against Chicago this week?
Yeah, actually. I mean, they're close. They're not, too far off. They're both teams are favored. Both teams have decent implied team totals. Both teams are at home. So I like Elliott by a hair. I think Maher is fine though if you can't get Elliott. But if I had to literally pick one, Elliott.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick and Jen. Always a pleasure. Nick, any final thoughts before we go? Anything you want to plug?
I will just, two quick things. One, Philadelphia defense should be owned in 100% of leagues. Right now, their roster rate's like 79% on Yahoo, and obviously that's super high, but they're top 5 both in total points and average points per week. And the second thing was I just wanted to shout out Adam Hutchinson, because his injury index, I think, is one of the most valuable resources that I've seen like come out for the 2022 season. I use it nearly every day. And it is fantastic. So props to Adam.
Yeah, we love Adam. We couldn't agree more. Listeners, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. Follow us on Twitter at The Monday Mommy and at Nic Bodiford NFL and at 2GuysBrandon. A heads up, tomorrow I'll be live at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Alex Korf for a full trade episode. We'll literally be there. We will literally be there to dissect and discuss your fantasy trades. So tune in, ask a question. Ask a question in the chat. I almost coughed.
You almost made it.
Almost made it without a coughing fit. We'll see. Ask a question in the chat. If you don't, we want everything to talk about, and then I will just talk about some nonsense, and nobody wants that. So thank you so much for checking us out, and have a good day.